jobs. We go in the cookhouse to dry about 6,000 dishes, you see, and in the latrines for to clean them out. Well, if I had a job to do, even if it was scrubbing the floor, I wanted my floor to be cleaner than yours. Now, if everybody thinks along these lines and does all the small jobs to the best of their ability, that's honesty, then the world will be better and football will be better. So what we want is hard work, and no football club is ever successful without hard work.
The greatest motivator I've met in my life.
He made you feel like you were the best player in the world.
Made you and the team seem invincible.
He had a power of oratory that politicians would die for.
He was absolutely brilliant. You know, I don't think you'll get another man like him.
In 2005, Liverpool Football Club defeated AC Milan to win their 5th European Cup. Already Britain's most successful club, the victory ensured their place amongst the elite of the European game. It was a far cry from the post-war years when Liverpool were a mediocre second division side with an ageing team and a crumbling stadium. In 1959, one man's arrival would transform the club and the English game forever.
I honestly believe that if Bill Shankly hadn't come to Liverpool, you wouldn't have seen Liverpool with their European Cups and leagues, FA Cups, because, you know, he just took everything by storm.
William Shankly was born in the mining village of Glenbuck, Ayrshire, in 1913. Life was hard, but the environment shaped the man.
It was a hand-to-mouth existence, but I think that really formed the great qualities of Bill Shankly, because in that very harsh environment, it forged this steely determination.
Shankly began his playing career with Partick Thistle before moving to Carlisle in 1932. He made his name at Preston, winning the FA Cup in 1938. Today, Deepdale bears his image, and at Preston, the seeds of Shankly's management career were sown.
They had 2 Tynesiders there on the staff, and he said they were years ahead of the time in training methods and how they discussed tactics and fitness, and Shanks used this in all his later career as a manager, and he always puts it down to that those days at Preston when he learned the backroom secrets.
Shankly's playing career was disrupted by the Second World War. Enlisting with the RAF, but seeing no frontline fighting, Shankly returned after the Allies' victory with his sights on management. He learnt his trade with spells at Carlisle and Grimsby. In 1955, he joined Huddersfield Town, where he nurtured talent like future England World Cup winner Ray Wilson and a Scottish striker, Dennis Law.
Bill Shankly was a mentor for me. He was the one that sort of brought me into the game, really, and then showed me all the things that should be done as a player, etc. So he was a tremendous influence in my life, not only on the field, but off the field as well.
Shankly had suspicions the Huddersfield board did not share his ambition. Luckily, he was being watched.
Liverpool went there one day and they were ripped apart by this Huddersfield team. Huddersfield won 5-0. And the following year, when Liverpool went back there, it was then that they offered Shankly the job. And T.V. Williams, the chairman of Liverpool, he said, Bill, how would you like to be manager of the best team in the country? And Shank says, why? Has Matt Busby packed up?
They were desperate to get one that they liked, the supporters, you know. And they obviously took to Bill Shankly.
He knew the raw material was there, because he'd said to Huddersfield directors when he'd gone there with Liverpool, he said, wait till you hear the roar this Kop make when they get a corner. And he knew that the people would respond if you gave them what they wanted.
He went to Liverpool and made Liverpool the team that, you know, they became. He set the foundation there to become a team. I'm just unfortunate he left Huddersfield, because I'm sure he'd have done exactly the same with Huddersfield. But his life, as I say, his life was football completely.
Shankly faced a huge challenge and set about improving all aspects of the club. Within 18 months, he'd released 24 players, bringing through striker Roger Hunt. and a young winger who would go on to break the record for the number of Liverpool appearances, 17-year-old Ian Callaghan.
You'd be messing around in the corridors, you know, some of the younger lads, and he'd come out of his office and, you know, straight away you'd all right, boss, yeah, and you'd stop what you were doing, you know. It was like a respect, you know, sort of a little bit scared of him, really.
In addition to promoting from within, Shankly was not afraid to spend the club's money. Ian St John came in to partner Hunt, but arguably Shankly's key signing was centre-half Ron Yates.
He said, yes, he says, we're in the first division, son. He said, and we're going to do well when we sign you, and we've signed Ian St John. So I thought, great, you know, continued. And I thought, I've just read in the paper that in the second division, I says, we are at the moment. He says, but when we sign you, he says, we'll be in the first division next season. Now, what can you say about that, you know?
I'd spoke to the pros who were there before me, and they sort of said training had changed, and you know, they did everything with the ball since Mr Shankly arrived. So you got the feeling that, you know, things were happening, and you know, things were on the up.
Promotion was secured with the second division title in 1962. And 2 years later, Liverpool won the league championship for the first time since 1947.
You didn't realise it was going to be so quick, you know, how quickly it was that, you know, they went from a second division team to you know, league champions, first division league champions.
Shankly had achieved more than many thought possible in a very short space of time. But he had no doubt that Liverpool could go on to be much bigger and better, as long as everyone thought his way and pulled together for the Liverpool cause.
Well, I'm hard on people that need to be hard on. For people who don't need to be hard on them, they're very opposite. So there's a balance, as you say. I mean, I think that if a man needs, who's playing in front of the public, is being well paid, and he doesn't dedicate himself to the job, I would be hard on him. If I could, I'd put him in jail. Out the road, society, because it's a menace.
If the club was improving in all areas, Shankly wanted more, to intimidate. The master of psychology made one very significant change. In came the famous all-red strip.
I was the dummy who had to try it on. You know, we were going to training, and he said, Ron, he said, before we go to training, I want you to put on a new kit. It's in the dressing room. So, bloody hell, I really liked it. And he went, that's it. He says, we're going to play in all red. He says, you, when you were running over there, looked like a colossus coming towards us. That's it. We're all in red. Bob, getting back for training.
It was the start of Liverpool's most successful period to date, but Shankly was desperate for more silverware. In 73 years, Liverpool had never won the FA Cup. In 1965, they faced Leeds United in the final.
I remember the build-up, obviously, you know, the clamour for tickets. The Beatles were coming through, and the football team was on the up, and so it was just a fantastic place to be, Liverpool, it was.
In the dressing room before the game, Shankly was as bullish as ever.
There's no way Leeds could beat us. This was his talk, you know, for 3 days. You know, no way they could beat us. You know, they haven't got this side. We have got this side, you know, and we'll win this. You know, and he was always confident.
Roger Hunt opened the scoring for Liverpool 3 minutes into extra time. The lead lasted only 10 minutes before a mistake from Yates led to Billy Bremner's equaliser. But another of Shankly's key signings would head the winner. Ian St John scoring with less than 10 minutes remaining. Liverpool won 2-1.
It was the first time the Queen had gone to Wembley to give out any cup. So, you know, to be first to pick it out from the Queen was a big moment for me. It was probably a bigger moment for Liverpool Football Club.
There were 50,000 Liverpudlians at Wembley that day, but no one was prouder than the Scot, Bill Shankly.
He was beside himself. He was just... Because, you see, he'd done what no Liverpool manager had ever done.
I couldn't believe the crowds in Liverpool when we come back with it, you know, after the game. It was just, I didn't think Liverpool had that many people in it. You know, they were out of windows, out of doors, a lot.
When you think he'd only come little more than 5 years earlier, and there they were, they'd not only won the league championship, now they'd won the FA Cup as well. He'd taken them into Europe. It was just amazing.
The scenes of jubilation were astonishing, but the season was far from over. The European Cup had never been won by a British team. Shankly was convinced Liverpool could be the first. The two-legged semi-final brought Inter Milan to Anfield.
Probably the greatest night of my career at Liverpool, I think, you know, for atmosphere.
Goals from Hunt, Callaghan and St John saw Liverpool run out comfortable 3-1 winners over the European champions. In Italy, however, it was a very different story. Shankly's suspicion of all things foreign began well before kick-off.
We stayed on Lake Como. Next door to the hotel was a church. Every hour the bell went. Bill Shankly thought, well, this is going to go right through the night. Him and Bob went to see the priest and tried to get this bell stopped, which had been going for hundreds and hundreds of years.
It was just like a war, you know, like the Battle of the Bulge. We were in the centre of it.
I've never known atmosphere like that, you know. It was like hatred, it really was.
The first goal against us was an indirect free kick, which he put his hand up for. Corsa chipped the ball into the net and he gave a goal. Tommy Ron picks the ball up, he's going to... Yeah, and the fella kicked it. When he did that to bounce it, he kicked it out into the net, 2-0. But I was told before the game that no matter what happened, we wouldn't win.
The way things happened, it was heartbreaking, I must admit.
He was very, very suspicious of foreigners. Foreigners, he says, that are a load of thieves, rogues and vagabonds living in their wits in the gutter. Because don't forget, Shankly operated when the Cold War was still on, the Iron Curtain was still up. And somebody told him that when they went behind the Iron Curtain, he would be bugged. What they do is they put them in the light. So he used to, when he checked into a hotel, he'd stand on a chair and shout at the light, "I know you're in there, you Russian so-and-so." And he used to shout, he said, so I'd make them deaf.
If Shankly loved competing in Europe, his priority never changed.
The main thing in our bread and butter is this. And that's what we want to win all the time. Never mind Europe. I'm glad I'm in Europe. It's been a great thing for Liverpool, great thing for the country. But this is our bread and butter. And this is the one that we want.